What to do, Gorilla Crew? Your boy Gorillaphent here, and today we are playing Outriders. Shout outs to Square Enix on sponsoring today's video. If you guys aren't familiar, which you should be, Outriders is out now on everything you can imagine, from Steam to Stadia, I think that's how you say it, Xbox, PlayStation. It's everywhere, and it's free on Xbox Game Pass right now. And also, if you're still on the fence about buying it, you can play the demo for free 99 on all the platforms just listed. And once you fall in love with it like I did, you can then go ahead and make that purchase, keep that progress, keep that grind going, and all progress you go to demo goes to the full game. A couple pointers before you dive into Outriders is they have a nice little option that is key to your survivability, and that is shoot them until they die so you can live, which is kill to heal. So pretty much that's how you play. Always be aggressive, always run to people, always shoot, and then bring your friends because they should like it too. Taking cover is an option, but shooting in the head is a much better result of using an option. Now, where we are in the game, since I've played like 100+ hours in it, we're in the expeditions, which is right now Outriders in game, which is kind of a timed attack where your goal is gold, and the better score you get, gold, silver, bronze, the better loot you get. So we're always striving to get gold. We're trying out a lot of different builds, and that's what you're going to see in today's video, is what we're using right now on our Technomancer, and we're comparing different mods on AR to see which is the best, so we can keep getting those goals, keep getting the loots, and keep the grind going. Once again, shout outs to Square Enix on sponsoring this video, and don't forget to click the link down below to get in on the Outriders action today. With all that being said, let's get into it. All right, guys, here we are today, and I'm kind of showing you guys my current techno build. I don't know if you know, I've been playing the absolute everything out of Outriders lately. Probably had close to 100 hours into the game since its release, and I want to start doing more Outriders content. So this is kind of like our build, what we're running right now, what we're doing with Technomancer the farm, and we're doing a bit of a comparison of why the community and also me think Bone Shrapnel is pretty much the best AR mod in the game at the current time. Definitely for Technomancer. And we're comparing against 3 other mods in this video. Comparing against Wrath of the Moloch, and we're also comparing it against Death Chains. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to show the damage numbers that on each run. All these are burst ARs, by the way. Only thing you run with Techno. We're going to talk about the damage at the end of the run and how the run felt, and the times will probably be around the same. We're going to run Coliseum, I would say. I think Coliseum is a very good judge of what all 3 of these weapons can do. And we're just going to see how and why Bone Shrapnel is kind of the best right now. But anyway, let's go into the build. Build's very simple: crit damage, long range damage, close range damage on our AR. We do have a stronger AR, but once again, I kind of wanted to compare our weapons kind of in the same class, because 93k on the AR slaps. Like, it goes. The difference between this and this is mind-numbing. Also, this and this is crazy. So we're not going to compare that one because it'll kind of cheat, if that makes sense. Where these all 3 are kind of in the same round, 88.1, 88.2, and 86.5. But so that's what we run. We swap between these 3. Well, normally these 3, just for difference and variance. I even tried the Sandstorm AR. It not having crit damage is pretty heartbreaking. Anyway, so we pretty just focus on damage here. That's kind of how you play Techno right now. It's just firepower, and firepower. So we got bonus firepower, close range. We got sharp eye, crit stack. On our helmet, we have a euthanizer and emergency stance. On our chest, we were bouncing between emergency stance and mitigation of death and damage absorber. Those were the 3 defensive perks that we normally use. We're just using emergency stance now, but we've tried all 3. They all 3 kind of feel the same. I think emergency stance has some interesting things going on with it right now, so it's being used more than it was before. But once they adjust it, we still have other pieces we can put back to get back what we were doing anyway and not dying. As long as you do it right, you won't have to worry about dying anyway. On our legs, we have Radical Therapy, Move and Groove. I really like Move and Groove. I notice when I don't have Move and Groove, so I always try to use Move and Groove, and we'll show like what happens when we do move and groove, and how it affects our stats. On our gloves, we have Captain Hunter Toxic Lead. Toxic Lead is just great because people are always toxic because of blighted rounds. And then on our boots, we have Dum Dum Bullets and Bloodlust. You can put something else instead of Dum Dum Bullets. We're just putting that there. So that's kind of the build that we run. Skills, kind of just the usual blighted rounds, blighted turret. Cold Snap, I love Cold Snap. I want to make a Cold Snap build. And then our class, top tree, best tree. We're actually going to work on a build that's going to be top tree, half bottom tree. So I'm working on that now. I just got to find the pieces and figure out how I'm going to do it. And this is what I was saying about moving groove. Moving, grooving, moving, grooving, moving, grooving. Yeah. All right, so that's the build. Now we're going to get into the nitty gritty and we're going to see how these three ARs compare to each other. One with Bone Shrapnel, one with Wrath of Moloch, and one with, what was the other one? Chains. Let's get it.
I think that's the last of the monsters, but that maniac isn't too happy about it. Here we go.
All right, so once you conclude that run, it was a 7:01 time. As I said, we're not necessarily judging based on time due to the fact a lot of different things come into time, whether you got froze, whether you got a stray bullet, whether you thought the dot would kill an enemy so you turned away and then it didn't die and you had to run down, whether they spawned in the wall. There's a lot of different things that happen that could affect your time. So the time is 7:01. All this stuff is always the same, but what we're more concerned about is damage dealt. Blight rounds dealt 178 million damage, and the Bone Shrapnel mods dealt 18 million. So that's kind of what we're focused on. It's like, all right, what does Bone Shrapnel actually do in a run, and is that damage like sufficient? I kind of think the blighted round damage would kind of be kind of close with each round, but we're kind of looking at what does the mod do. Does the mod do a lot? Does the mod do damage? And like, is Bone Shrapnel the best AR mod in the game at the current state? So this is the first one. Now let's get into a second one. In the second, we're going to be using this guy, and we're going to be looking to see how much damage does Wrath of Moloch do.
I think that's the last of the monsters, but that maniac isn't too happy about it. Here we go.
All right, so our time on that run was a 7:29. Trust me, it was a pretty sloppy run. Actually, and stuff was still about the same. So now we're looking at the damage. So the damage here is the blight rounds did 182, or the mod Wrath of Moloch did only 12 million, almost 13 million. I might as well say 13 million damage. There are probably a couple crits I could have hit to get 13 million. So we'll just give it 13 million. So that's how it measures up against bone shrapnel. Next, we're gonna try chains. See how chains measure. I personally like chains just because alpha predators get on my everlasting nerves, and chain kind of holds them up and tells them to hold the beer, and then you finish them off. So we're just gonna see how it measures up. And just for reference, as far as damage goes, this does 193,000 damage over 3 seconds with a 2-second cooldown. Wrath of Moloch does 161 damage while inflicting burn on everything around within 5 meters every 3 seconds, and bone shrapnel whenever killing shots detonate do 203,000 damage and inflicts bleed on enemies within 5 meters with a 1 second cooldown. So those just for reference for those who are interested. Let's get it.
Creatures. That feral maniac had to go. I think that's the last of the monsters, but that maniac isn't too happy about it. Here we go.
All right, so once again, not saying anything. I think the time on this was around like 7:12 or something like that. So it has the second fastest time. I think we pulled more legendaries using the legendary weapon than not. So, you know, if you want to factor that into the calculation of which mods you should use, which gun. No, I'm joking. Let's check out the damage. Damage is 188 million blighted round damage. The Death Chains mod only did 6 million damage, which is the worst out of pretty much all of them. Like every mod did at least 8 figures. And Death Chains only did 7. Even if we run up, it only did 7. So that was kind of surprising because I would have thought with all the elites and bosses that the chain would constantly be in effect, but I guess not. And that's also interesting because true, the chain did less damage, but we still cleared faster than we did with the Wrath of Moloch mod. So that's very interesting. The guns are pretty much about the same, but this one has long range. So that's interesting. But just with those rough numbers of damage and we, like I said, you can't unsee clear time, but I'm trying not to factor clear time in. But between these three, all three are viable, but the weakest gun in this comparison, this mod did the most damage. So I think it's a safe bet to say that Bone Shrapnel is the best, potentially the best damage mod on an AR. I mean, obviously, I feel if you're playing Techno, every AR you play is going to have a killing spree. That's just the law, the law of the land. Just because of the damage, what it does, how you can constantly keep it up, you know. So now it's all about what's your number 2, because on every AR you're going to have to settle for another mod. If the mod slot you can change is going to always be killing spree, what other mod should I settle for? And it's pretty obvious you should settle for Bone Shrapnel. Now keep in mind, all these are viable. This one did 13 million. This one, Death Chains, did around 7 million. It had a quicker clear time than here because here you have to hit headshots to cause the explosions. So if you're not hitting the heads, if you're not getting crit shots, then you know maybe this is more your speed because this is just shoot them and you get it. So this is a bit more forgiving. But you know, Bone Shrapnel requires you to kill. So I'm pretty sure you just, if you can, go Bone Shrapnel. Plus, you know, with the, you know, there's ways to get a good gun with Bone Shrapnel already on it versus, you know, this, because this is a legendary. You get it, you just put killing spree on it. That is your mod. So yeah, so if you like this type of video, if you like this type of content, if you want me to do this with other weapons or other mods on the AR, just let me know in the comment down below. We're going to start doing build videos here as well. Right now, this is just the basic everybody runs Techno build. I'm working on a Pyromancer. I'm also working on a poison, all poison variant of Technomancer to see how that does as far as like getting that anomaly power up and seeing like what's the dots we can get on poison. But for right now, for farming, it seems like Bone Shrapnel is the way to go. I mean, I'm pretty sure people already said it, but you know, I wanted to get, for me and for my community, get some numbers. I know a lot of you guys play because you be in the streams, twitch.tv/gorillaphent. But yeah, so the weakest AR with Bone Shrapnel out damaged its two counterparts who weren't, I mean, not too much stronger, but they were stronger. So until next time, peace to you. Love you guys. Later.